Oh, my name is Stephen. I'm a philosophy teacher at a good public university in Istanbul. So I'm interested in what it would take to be a good teacher. And some of what I would like to say is more general than that. It would apply to almost any kind of work. So I hope I'll say things that would be at least interesting and worth thinking about for everybody, not just the teachers. So how to be a good teacher? Now, one place to begin is with the 5 ethical precepts of Buddhism. So on the job, there are 5 things you should not do. So that's a good place to begin. Do not harm living things. And you have a chance to do this as a teacher, but don't do it. Don't take what hasn't been given to you. Do not engage in sexual misconduct. Do not lie, gossip, misuse speech. And this is going to be important, isn't it, for a teacher? And do not use intoxicating substances. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is just the place to begin. The negative ethics, but being good is something positive. So we need to go beyond that. Well, the fundamental way you do that is to be conscientious. You carry out the work that you have been paid to do. This is kind of basic, but it isn't always done. Just remind yourself, you've been given a job to teach. What are you doing? Conscientiously carry out the work you've been asked to do. So you'll have students. What kind of relation will you have to your students? One kind of relation is a professional relation. It's part of your work to stand in a certain relation to certain other people. You are their teacher. And for example, one part of this is to treat your students equally. And here is a wonderful student. I love talking to him, and this one bores me. No, I can't do that. So part of my job is to be professional with my students. But that can't be the whole story, because my students are human beings. They are people. Before they are students and I am a teacher, we are 2 human beings. And I must remember not just to treat them professionally, but to keep my relationship with them personal. Treat my students with respect. All my students want to call me Hojam, so I'm up here and they're down here, right? And I need to show the same kind of respect that they are showing to me, the same kind, not just a little closer, but on the same level. That's because we're both people. Simple things. Keep eye contact when you're teaching. When you're not teaching, make yourself available to your students. You need help? I'm here to help you. That should be my attitude. When I started out teaching philosophy, there was a little history to this. First of all, I wanted to be a scientist and then maybe a mathematician. When I was an undergraduate, I was studying mathematics. And then I just said, really, the next 40 years I'm going to be solving equations in some little room? What's the value to that? So I said, okay, I will go from science to mathematics to philosophy, and I will be a philosopher. And there's a problem. You can make a living being a scientist or a mathematician, but you can't make a living being a philosopher. You know what you have to do? You have to teach. I didn't want to teach. I wanted to do philosophy the rest of my life. And I couldn't. And I didn't like this. Now, here's the beginning of a sentence. I teach. Now, how am I going to finish the sentence? There's two ways. One is, I teach philosophy. The other one is, I teach students. Very different way of looking at my job. And what I really need to be clear about is that I am here for the students. Outside the classroom, I can do philosophy. I can do the research and the thinking. But in the classroom, I'm teaching other human beings. And really, the first year or two I taught, I was an awful teacher. I was just giving them some ideas I learned in graduate school, and they were first-year students. I wasn't really in touch with them at all. And over the years, I've learned to be more of a human being. We'll come back to that in a minute. But it's a human relationship. Well, that applies to every job there is. This requirement to deal properly with other human beings. Okay, now to be a good teacher, you have to be, I believe, it helps to be genuinely conscious of all the evil influences on your work. And there are some evil influences, and I will just give you some examples, 4 or 5 examples, things that can really get in the way of being a teacher. One is this: today, these days, these last few years, more and more an emphasis on money as the important thing in the world, money. And so here's a student in my class, or I might talk to them outside of class. How's your work going and things? And how is this class going to help me get a good job when I graduate? That's in the back of their mind. How can I get a good job from your class? Okay? And at Harvard and Yale and these great universities, majority of students are studying not anything they love. They're studying financial business classes. Majority of them. What can I do about that? Well, I can't change it, but what I can say is I want to tell you that in this philosophy class, there are other things you can get out of it beside the possibility of a great job when you graduate. There are other things to be gained from it. And I can wake them up to something, other things that they also care about if they would stop and think about them. So there's a Bible verse that says, the love of money is the root of all evil. Now you got to be aware of that. It corrupts everything. Secondly, institutional power relationships. And I'm at a public university, and more and more administrators and more government influence. And if you once have a job as an administrator and a little power, you think, how can I use this power? And there's an old saying, power corrupts. And power takes good people and turns them into corrupt people. And it just happens. What can I do about that? Well, one thing is to try, when I'm dealing with some administrator that wants to tell me here's how I do my job, is to break down the bureaucratic barrier and get through to this person as a human being. Just like with my students. Student teacher is resting on a basic foundation, human being. Same with me and the dean, me and the rector. Another thing I can do is learn the bureaucratic rules better than the bureaucrat learns them. Yeah, this is valuable. That can be done. Third obstacle besides money and bureaucracy is my own power over my students. This is a source of evil. And I have to reject it. This hojam, I don't want it. It corrupts what I'm trying to do. I could command my students, you better do this, you must do that. If you don't do this, you fail. And I could be like a general in the army. So that's a possible source of evil. I don't ask my students, you must attend class. I don't do that. I think if one of my students never comes to class the whole semester, goes home and reads the books and thinks and writes beautiful papers and gets an A without the benefit of my teaching, should I say, oh, I'm not going to give you an A? You weren't in class. There was a chair which was not kept warm by a part of your anatomy. What's this? We're talking about the wrong anatomical portion of the person, aren't we? Yeah. It's what you do with this, isn't it, that matters? But I could do that. 10% of your grade is on attendance. And there are universities in Istanbul that do the same thing. Their administrators do the same thing to the teachers. You must be in your office 8 hours a day. It's just wonderful to have power. Yeah. Try not to get any. It's not so wonderful. Here's a source of evil. Students who don't understand what it is to learn. A student comes to university and their idea of learning is preparing to pass an exam. If you pass the exam, you've succeeded. And you can be very good at this without knowing what's on the exam. If you're very good at exams, you don't have to be very good on the subject matter. Pass an exam, pass an exam. This is not learning. So, and especially in philosophy. Philosophy is an activity, it's not a bunch of results to memorize. It's a skill you can have, the search for understanding, to really grasp the nature of something. It's the result of real work. It's the result of learning to do a very special kind of work. And I think often the job of the teacher, if the student says, is there a God? Mr. Voss, do we really have free will? The job of the teacher is to say, what do you mean? Or what do you think? Tell me your ideas. And then something begins, something magical can begin to happen if the student realizes, I can't just write down what the teacher said. I can't tell you anything that will allow you to pass the exam. That's not what I'm going to do today. Yeah. I mean, learning involves thinking, and this is a new concept to many students. And it's a difficult thing to do. Thinking is not an easy thing to do. And to do it in a skillful way, so that you can actually take joy in it. It may be of greater value than money. I suggest that a good teacher should transform the job, and transform the job in two ways. The first way is this: to transform the job into exactly what that job is meant to be, but is not. You know what I mean? The job description is this, but the way people do it is that. Take your job and do what you really are supposed to do with it, not what people habitually do with it. Give you a simple example. You're executive in a drug company. Your two duties are to help doctors cure people and to make enough money for the company's employees. Okay? Quite simple. But many drug companies, the attitude is, we will help doctors cure people to the extent it doesn't get in the way of maximizing profits. It's a corruption. Get it back to where it's supposed to be. And the last point, I would say, you transform your job in the light of your own deeper understanding of what life is. And we all have intuitions that go beyond our normal job understanding. Transform your job on the basis of your understanding of life. And one way to do this, for example, would be to ask the question, as I'm teaching, can I be conscious of myself, conscious of my students, as well as conscious of the words I'm trying to say? This kind of self-awareness that Buddhism speaks about. So if I pay attention to the other 7 parts of the Eightfold Path and put them into operation in my teaching, maybe I've done well with the last part.